I'd like to give an introduction to our distinguished speaker and mentor, Gaurav Mittal. Gaurav is a successful entrepreneur and a product management leader with 20 plus years of industry experience. Besides his own startup, he has done extensive work in product strategy, product management, customer advocacy, and value engineering. Gaurav is a coach, advisor, and recurring speaker on topics such as lean entrepreneurship, product market fit, establishing hard to copy competitive barriers, and building products that provide persistent differential returns. He holds close to 30 patents. Currently, Gaurav is working at Intuit as a product leader where he is responsible for the strategy of QuickBooks platform, ensuring large-scale adoption of Intuit offerings, thus setting the stage for the next 10 years of growth. Gaurav holds a bachelor's degree from Delhi University and master's from Ahmedabad. His interest towards linking industry and academia took him to pursue his doctoral studies in strategic management and marketing from University of Tampere, Finland during his time with Nokia. Now, without any further delay, I request Gaurav to share some candid insights as he speaks about the trending topic, 3 ways of strategic thinking for leadership roles. Welcome, Gaurav.
Thank you, Shairana. Thanks for the really kind words. Can I on my video or this is?
Yes, you need to turn on your video and share your presentation. I'll just make you the co-host.
So I'll start off in the interest of time,
start.
and then
Yes.
we'll figure it
Sure.
out. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So good evening, everyone. On my behalf too, I hope you all are doing well and staying safe even during these difficult times, where some of us are really seeing the long tail of wave 2, and at the same time we are already hearing about wave 3 will delta plus variant in some states. So, and thanks for IPL for having me here, and again thanks to Shairana for such kind words. So let me begin by asking a question, right? So, and I don't know whether it allows you to share, your audio or not, but let me ask a question. So, and question is very simple. That when you are traveling, you need a destination or a direction. Anyone from the audience would like to say? There are no right or wrong answers over here. It is just an individual preference. So, anyone would like to, talk about it, or Sharana, are they allowed to speak?
They can. They can message on the chat window.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
already seeing some of getting it. Yeah.
Great.
You can turn on your presentation also if you would like, Gaurav, and your camera as well. You've been made the co-host. Great.
So that's also awesome, and you are absolutely right. Some of them are saying both are important, right? And that is true. Both are important. But if you have to pick one of the two, that is what the question was all about. But I see a 50-50 on this, direction and let's say destination. So let me take it further. So what is strategic thinking, right? So strategic thinking is the one which gives an organization a direction to reach its destination. That is why in this question was, the direction or destination. Both are important, but one is a means to get to the the second one. Or simply speaking, strategic thinking is an intentional and rational thought process that focuses on the analysis of key business problems that will influence the long-term success of a business. Right? This can actually equally apply well in the context of a team or an individual also, and we will cover them also in more detail as we go forward, right? So strategic thinking also includes careful and deliberate anticipation of opportunities to pursue, and vulnerabilities to guard against, right? Ultimately, strategic thinking and an analysis will exercise will lead to a set of clear plans required to survive and thrive in an ever-changing market environment. So this sort of thinking must account for customer insights, economic realities, technology advancement, industry landscape, and the available resources you have in hand, because you need to find a way how you will get to your destination and which direction to take from there. Now, why strategic thinking is important, right? So it allows you to focus, like I said, on the handful of business problems which will have the biggest impact on the customer problem thus achieving the business goals and forward march towards the product vision. And that is the crux of strategic thinking, why we develop strategies and all that, because as an we can do multitude of things in our organization to keep everyone happy, but it is these handful of business problems, if we get them right, then we are able to keep our customers happy and also meet or beat our our business goals and the expectations from that perspective, right? So challenge comes is how do we identify these business problems and generate further insights which can facilitate the product decision making. And that is what we will talk more in probably today's session also, and also in the in ICL product strategy sessions and all that, right, where how do we kind of get to that process in more detail from that perspective, right? On an individual level also, right, when you think strategically, it allows you to make greater contribution in your role and add more value to your organization, and hence become more essential to your organization. This helps you grow faster in your career, right? And I'll give a data point towards for this. So there was a large study done by Folkman Group, and they analyzed gathered 360-degree feedback from about 100K leaders, right? And then comparing them based upon their organization hierarchy level. And it was clearly identified from the the results which they got, that top managers were rated substantially higher on strategic thinking perspective or strategic perspective than senior managers, right? And upon analyzing all of the 19 leadership qualities which they evaluated as a part of 360-degree feedback, the researchers discovered that strategic perspective was the leadership quality that was most powerfully separated the top managers from senior management, right? So that is why I'm trying to emphasize this is very important for all of you to grow in your careers, and kind of reach to the top management from the the senior let's say senior management, whatever you are right now, right? And it basically the research like I was saying that clearly shows it is statistically significant difference between the top managers and the senior managers when it comes to strategic thinking. So now, if that is so important, then how do we develop strategic perspective, right? Because that was clearly distinguished between the top managers and the senior managers from that perspective, right? So strategic thinking requires research, right? Both the primary research and the secondary research capabilities, problem finding, not only problem solving, but problem finding and solving skills, analytic thinking, innovation, and change management, and also very importantly, communication and leadership skills. I must emphasize, that although it is coming in the last, but it is not the least, the skill to have that clear decision making or fast decision making, what we call as a decisiveness. That's very key, because in strategic perspective, right, many times you will see situations where you will say that, hey, okay, I need to make move forward, right? So many organizations would have that value which called bias for action. So that is what we are trying to say over here, that how can you go through all the analysis which are data which is being thrown at you and all that, but still be able to kind of make the decisions pretty fast, right? Even whenever the situation is even fuzzy and you don't have the clear data points and all that, right? That's all why we need to have this strategic thinking and strategic perspective, and what skills we require over there, right? So being more strategic driven begins with a change in thinking, right? Also so instead of focusing on operational and tactical issues, now you start thinking from a more long term implications. What are the long term and most important problems to solve? I'll give an example over here. An experiment done by Stephen Covey, and probably he's also highlighted this in his book of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he did an experiment, with his research group about a jar was taken, and first he told his audience, say, hey, first put the sand in the jar, and then put the big rocks, right? And the audience clearly saw that because the sand occupied some space, in the jar, when the rocks were put on top of it, all the rocks could not fit in the jar. So next he changed it, and what he says that, okay, first put the fill the rocks in that jar, and then put the sand. And what happened this time is that all the rocks were clearly fit in over there, and sand clearly took that space between the rocks. And that is why, we are saying that, hey, the strategic thinking and strategic perspective allows you to think that, hey, what are my big rocks, and let me put them in the jar first, and then let the sand comes over here, right? So
Just a
now you
moment.
start thinking,
Sorry.
and ask yourself tough questions such as, hey, why do we operate in this particular way? Okay, what are our, competitors, doing so well? Why are they doing so well? In some organizations out there, could be, can they disrupt our business? Can the, competition come from a totally unknown source from that perspective, right? So camera industry, audio industry are very good examples where the mobile phone actually totally disrupted that, right? There is hardly any camera companies, for a long period of time, and only very niche spaces left over there. Mobile phones captured all the, kind of low end camera market from that perspective.
Gaurav, sorry to interrupt. Are you sharing a presentation that we are not being able to see?
No, I'm not sharing any presentation. I just thought that I will, kind of have a talk on this.
Surely. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Uh, so, and basically, it also involves, what changes, in future will have a significant impact on the business, and that is why, basically, I was talking about that. Why is it so important to kind of think from a, big rocks perspective, right? I also, in my 20 years of experience, I have come across something called a grow framework, right, which can act as a excellent companion, to for behavior to exhibit, strategic perspective, right? So leaders who exhibit strategic perspective, if they can adopt this framework, it really helps, in that manner. So what is this grow framework, which helps you develop strategic thinking? Is first is basically, G stands for goal, right? And this is very important because, it helps you identify the problems which needs to be solved to reach those business goals. And that is why I was talking up till now that, hey, which are those big rocks or the big problems which, if I solve, will help me achieve the business goals, the earliest, and the fastest way. I definitely have to solve, for sand and all that also, but most of my time must go for solving these big rocks because that will have the biggest impact on the business, right? The R, basically, of the grow framework stands for reality. Now, while I know, what are my goals, and, what are the problems, if I solve them, will help me reach those goals, I also need to learn, from the reality, what is happening around me right now. Okay? Where am I standing right now before, I can reach, to my destination over there. The O part of the grow framework is options, right? And so here we think about first to call what we call as a go broad, right? So identify all the possible options, to solve those problems, hey, and to basically which will help you reach those goals, right? So, and that is where is basically we call a paradox over here: go broad, go narrow, right? So for example, if you do a Google search, you would first want the search results to come as broad as possible, and then get contextualized, to as narrow as possible to your needs from that perspective. So strategic thinking also, is basically from that perspective. First, you need to evaluate all your options. Hey, can I get, go as broad as possible in terms of identifying my options? And then next part of the grow framework, which is will, then narrow down to the more focused solutions which you will implement as such, right? So that is the go broad, go narrow framework, which helps you, as a part of the overall grow framework, to develop this strategic thinking and strategic perspective, which will, to kind of achieve, your career goals as well as, organization goals from that perspective. One question which normally I get asked, is basically that, okay, fine, I know my business goals, but how do I identify, which are the biggest problems which will really solve those, help me achieve those business goals, right? And there, what we say is that you really need to focus on the customers, right? Because customers know things which you do not know right now, and you can see things, you do not see, right? The problems which the customers are facing, that is what is for you to understand that, hey, how can, what are those problems and what are the patterns behind those problems, right? And how do we gather these problems and all that, right? And this is what I referred earlier as, basically having the research skills. So where we start is basically we do some secondary research, and build some hypothesis, and we go to those customers, and try to validate those hypotheses, right? And that is what, and we gather some qualitative insights from these customers, saying that, hey, what are they really thinking, whether this will work or this will not work, what are they, how their day looks like and all that, right? So these are what we call as qualitative insights. But these qualitative insights are generally in a point in time, that whenever you are doing research, you get at that particular time. Generally these are also done at the start of something new, like you are doing some new redesign or something like that, or starting of a new project. At that time you do a lot of user studies. So as we go, developing the product and all that, some of these studies, try to get older, and there is exactly what you need to gather is what we call as the quantitative insights, which will help you constantly, like building the data dashboards, which will help you, constantly stay in touch with the customers, what is happening with my customers and all that. Although there is again a problem with quantitative insights also, where you totally understand only the what is happening, not the why. And that is why you need to build your frameworks in a way that the qualitative and quantitative insights go hand in hand over there, right? So that you are constantly understanding what is happening with my customers, and also why this is happening. And we will cover probably these kind of details more exactly, right? How do we build these close feedback loops, which will help you cover, go this qualitative and quantitative insights hand in hand, you know in our product strategy sessions, during the ICSL courses and all that, right? So but these are important tools which will help you identify the customer problem and think strategically from, basically how to add more value to the organization from that perspective. But these are not enough. You also need to have technology insights. How do you gather technology insights, basically, right? And also the industry insights, from that perspective, right? And here I am talking about, for example, many of you may already be following that, is the statutory, by Ben Thompson, those kind of blogs, which is very good, way of looking at how what is happening in the industry. From a technology perspective, you can also kind of always have a look out at how my competitors or how the other industry players are using a particular technology. Can I utilize that in my particular domain, in some way or the other, and all, right? These are the things you may be constantly, having a lookout for, to gather these insights, so that you can develop that strategic thinking, and basically apply them in the grow framework further to solve those problems and all that, right? Okay. So what I would also try to do here is that uh, kind of give you a case study, from my past, where we really kind of utilize this framework, and were really able to solve a big problem, for the organization. So I'll go back many years. Basically, it was 2003, when Nokia, was, as probably was a global leader in the mobile phones, but it was number two in China, right? Motorola was number one in China during those times. And what we really saw was that, hey, our market share started to decline in China market. And first of all, we thought that, hey, basically, right, it's just that the probably customers are preferring more of the let's say Chinese phones, for Chinese language, which was kind of much more robust over there, or the cheaper versions, the cost price was much cheaper for the Chinese phones and all that, right? So, and that is when we started doing the customer research, and we really trying to find out, hey, what is exactly happening in the market. So what we realized was at that particular time that it is not about so much about the price of the product, but it was about the availability of the product. And what I mean by that is that Nokia distributorship was basically only limited to tier 1 and tier 2 towns at that particular time in China. So a lot of to some certain extent, let's say, to a bigger tier 3 cities, from that perspective, but largely tier 1 and tier 2. So the Chinese manufacturers, who were more entrenched in those markets, they were able to, having their distributorship in tier 3 and tier 4 towns also. And that was making a huge difference, because the retailers from these tier 3, tier 4 towns had to come to, let's say, tier 2 towns, and basically, take the handsets, whatever, like 3, 5, 10, depending upon their capacity, and then they will go back, and sell those handsets. So there was, let's say, the credit availability was much lower to these handset manufacturers from the retailers which were sitting in the tier 2 towns and as such. But by Chinese manufacturers having the distributorship in tier 3, tier 4 towns, distributors were able to extend much more credit facility, to the, retailers over there, and hence the availability of, Chinese phones was much more, in tier 3, tier 4 towns as compared to, the Nokia phones, for example, right? You can also think from a perspective of, let's say, Videocon in India market. So Videocon in India market basically, because, is well entrenched, in the much smaller towns where the large MNCs are not able to kind of, put there. Like Samsung and LG have not been able to penetrate those smaller towns as well as, for example, Videocon has been able to do. That has been their whole strategy of Videocon, from that perspective for these towns. So once we realized that, hey, this was the problem, why the availability was the problem, then what we did was, okay, then we said, okay, fine, that, and we also understood, hey, where we are right now. Then we were, able to say what are the possible options, what we have in front of us in order to overcome the situation. So first thing was basically what, we said that, hey, the options was that, we and like I said, Nokia distributorship was outsourced to a, another company at that particular time. So we can, have another vendor which will basically say, which will go and distribute in the tier 3 and tier 4 towns. The other option was we can take the distributorship in our hands, and we say that, hey, get rid of the, distributor which was having, outsourced distributor, and take everything in our hand. The other thing was that basically, hey, continue to stay put, wherever we are right now. And probably another thing is, hey, try to extend the credit, to some of these retailers so that they can, and have tie-ups with them over there. So what we selected option was that, hey, it's time, we are big enough in the market to take the distributorship in our hands. And that is what, we basically, got rid of our third party distributor, and all the distributorship, came to our hand. And we basically made sure that, have also set up shops, or, the distributors are able to get to the, stockists are able to get cover the tier 3 and tier 4 towns over there. And not only that, right, we also kind of, Nokia phones were so robust, and there was already a flare in the market for the Chinese phones, in these tier 3, tier 4 towns. So what we did was, we said that, hey, okay, we introduced that, the warranty on the device was increased from 1 year to 2 year. And we knew that the warranty cost will be very minimal for us, because, the kind of robustness we had in the Nokia devices, we will not get so much of devices in return between the first and second year. But this was a killer one, for our Chinese competitors, because their phones were not so robust. So with a 2 years warranty period, and having that distributorship, and availability of the devices in our tier 3, tier 4 towns, we were able to reverse the market trends. And in about 12 to 15 months, not only, we gained back our position, but we actually displaced Motorola also from number one position, and we Nokia became number one in China market, basically at that particular time. So this is basically one case study, and I particularly thought that I should not take from a software, because, it will give a more diverse perspective, that how you can think, from a strategic perspective, to solve the and utilize the grow framework to solve the, the organization problems, and basically increase your value also, basically, in your organizations. So that's all I had today, basically to cover, as an introduction. And what I would also basically emphasize over here is that, right, when we do the ICSL course, we take one such case study, and try to develop strategic thinking around it, in terms of how to gather the customer insights, to find your strategic direction, develop product market fit, and how to get to the right go-to-market plan. And we actually do not go back all these years, all the time. We actually take more recent ones. So for example, in the last ICSL batch, we basically, try to do the dissection of Khata book, right? Khata book is trying to make a lot of inroads in the small and medium, market, in India. And hey, it's a very innovative concept which they are trying to bring over here. Or some, so these are the kind of, recent market case studies which we pick, and try to kind of apply these frameworks and develop the strategic thinking. And, if you were, let's say, a strategist, or in any of these organizations, how would you thought, you will develop that thought process, to kind of develop the strategy, for these, for your organization from that perspective. So I look forward to meeting all of you in the strategy sessions of ICSL. And, with that, I'm happy to take any questions, which you have.
There is one that's been there for some time. One is that somebody wants to know, Alok Ranjan, sorry, Alok wants to know the blogs you mentioned, so if you could repeat those again,
So I will put
Gaurav.
that, in the chat so you can take a note of that.
Great, thank you. And we have, there's one question that says, can you explain the W of grow?
Yeah. So W of grow is will, WILL will, and which is basically the go narrow the exact solutions which I will implement out of the options which I have found from the options part, the O part of the.
Thank you.
Did
And
I answer your
there's,
question?
uh,
Okay,
I
fine.
think yes. Okay, we have a couple more. Many industry experts in strategy thinking say quick decision making is the quality of product managers. The design thinking says deferring judgment, that is, staying long with the problem and understanding it and taking decisions is important. Which one is correct according to you?
Absolutely right. That the problem, staying more in the problem space is very important. However, it is equally, you have to realize that you can develop all the strategies and all that, but unless until you execute them, nothing happens, right? At the end of the day, when you execute, that is when the rubber hits the road. So you need to spend a lot of time in the problem statement, because if you've identified the right problems, you are able to kind of let's say add most value at that particular time. But once you have identified those problems, then even if you do not have the clear insight in terms of, hey, this is the right solution for this problem, what my recommendation here is, start with implementing something. And what is that something? Start with the experimentation. And this is where basically the lean entrepreneurship principles comes in also over here, which says that start with your MVP, whatever is your minimum viable product, from that perspective, and implement that. As you go along with that path, you will learn much more about from the customers, and basically also kind of find that on the new direction. And this is the direction, right? So small nudges which will help you get to your destination. Don't spend time fully on the analysis paralysis once you have identified the problems.
Thank you, Gaurav. One more. In the current customer behaviors dynamically changing environment, we can't 100% rely on data analytics due to the reason different AI algorithms will give different picture as sample size increases. Which data strategy will help to identify the customer problem more precisely? That's from Dr. Satish.
Okay. So sorry, I didn't understand the question. What is the question over here actually?
I think basically Dr. Satish wants to know which data strategy will help to identify the customer problem more precisely, because different data analytics gives a different picture. Different AI algorithms will give different picture as sample size increases.
Okay, I got it. So I think I try to hint that in my talk also, that data only gives you what is happening, right? It does not tell you why it is happening. So what we have done is we need to mix the data element, which is the quantitative element, with the qualitative element, uh, which will tell you why in real time. And I'll give a couple of examples how you can do this, what we also refer as a closed feedback loop, where we combine the what of data with why of insights. And how we do is, for example, in your products you may be asking for uh, NPS, right? Whenever you ask NPS survey, you also typically ask a question. Hey, why have you given this rating? What you can do, for example, is, or what we have done is that we have integrated this whatever this the question answer to this question with an email alias. So whatever the customer enters over here, basically it gets sent also to an email alias. And now we have done better actually, we have also integrated that to a Slack channel. So everyone in the organization who is subscribed to this Slack channel will immediately get that, hey, what the customers are saying, if they're giving a, let's say, rating of 8 9, why are they giving, what are we doing great in the product? If there are some of the customers are giving rating of 4 or 5 or 2, why are they giving rating of 2 4 or 5? What aspects of the product are not great from that perspective. And then you can map that also to your, the quantitative data and all that, right? Another example is, for example, in the contact us, right? Generally, you have in your product somewhere contact us, where the customers will contact the care, the customer support team and all that, right? Wherever they write a question for the care team, it can, whatever it is, it can also be sent to this Slack channel. Feedback, open feedback, they're generally in products. There is also another place where you ask the customer, hey, any feedback, please write it over here. Now the all this can continue to go to the traditional channels, which basically is the customer support in many of these cases. But what you can do now, and the technology allows you to do that, is basically try to kind of put that also and integrate that such a way that all these comes to you in the real time also. Now this is what is the power. What I'm saying is, while data will give you a lot of what is happening in the product, right, and what the path you should take, you should merge it with the real time feedback, which is why, because that is the subjective things which you get from the customers, and then take the product decisions accordingly.
Thank you, Gaurav. Uh, in, in the view of time constraints, I think we'll have to end the Q&A here. Thanks for the participation, audience. For any further questions, you can connect with Gaurav over LinkedIn or other mediums. Thank you very much, Gaurav, for taking time to join us. We look forward to hosting you on more of such topical discussions in the near future.
Sure. Thank you, Sharana. And I look forward to meeting, all of you in the product strategy sessions at the ICSL. And I will also put that blog in the chat right now.
Thank you very much. And now for the audience who've been with us on today's info session, do grab yourselves a cup of tea or a coffee as we chat with Saurav from the academic team to help us with a quick brief on strategy and leadership certification at IPL. Saurav, over to you.
Hey Shirana, lovely good evening. How are you doing today?
Very well, Saurav. Thank you. Please go ahead. And your voice is not very clear. It's very feeble,
Is it
Saurav.
any better now?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yeah,
Please go
great.
ahead. Thank you.
Now, Shirana, before I start with the session, first of all, a very big thank you to Gaurav. I must say that Gaurav's session have always been the most candid, but the most insightful ones when talking about what the industry is looking at when hiring for such senior leadership positions. Now, from there, I'll just share my screen. Now, when talking about the international certification in strategy and leadership, before I talk more about the program, now going back to what Gaurav was saying about the Nokia case study, which was in the year 2000, I would say early 2000. Strategy and leadership is not something that at 5, 6, or 8 years of experience you can choose to not know it, or at 10 years, 12 years, you think now you need to start. Till the time you reach 18, you need to now understand how to own a strategy. It's not about that. Strategy is more at an incremental basis. Like the main difference could be at 6, 7, 8 years, you may be contributing to a strategy. At 15 and 14 years, you may be owning a strategy. Now, the difference here could be with 6 or 7 years or 5 years, maybe you can choose to make mistakes. People will still let go. With 15 years, when one strategy can count $1 billion, you cannot afford making mistakes. That's the main difference when you talk about strategy and leadership, which is more incremental in nature. On that note, when you talk about the international certification in strategy and leadership, it is designed with a very similar context in mind. Now, it's a 5 months program. It's off campus. Every week we have sessions along with unlimited one-on-one coaching with the mentors. Now, when you talk about the mentors at the institute, it's not a platform where you connect with people from the academic team or someone from like someone holding an MBA comes and talk to you about a problem. It's not about that. After session, if you have like 2 minutes, just take some time and go to the website. You will find out that leading decision makers from companies like McAfee, Oracle, Myntra, Google Pay, Samsung, Swiggy, Intuit are coaches and mentors. So the whole program is led by industry decision makers who are currently making and breaking strategies, especially at this pandemic time. These are the one coaching and mentoring. Moving ahead, The whole program is designed keeping 10 different outcomes in mind. Hello?
Yes,
Yeah, we
Saurav,
can
go
hear
ahead.
you. It's
Sorry,
great.
We,
Yeah.
you're
sorry.
good to go.
Now, when you talk about the whole program is designed keeping 10 different outcomes in mind, right? The very first outcome is how do you envision a product? That's for example, how do you build a long-term strategy?
Saurav,
Very important.
we lost your presentation.
I think there is some issue in sharing the screen.
All
It's
right,
not proceeding further. Let me just try once more, please.
surely.
Just give me a second. Is it
Yeah,
visible
Saurav.
now?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
great. I'm so sorry for the glitch, everyone. Now, the whole program is designed keeping 10 different outcomes in mind. The first and the very foremost outcome is how do you envision a product? Meaning, how do you build a long-term vision, and more specifically, how do you articulate a written strategy? Never to forget, not every not every problem is worth solving. The same way, not every problem is an opportunity. How do you decide on what opportunity to work on? What is worth your time, money, effort? Portfolio management. What to shut down versus what to continue has been the most crucial decision making since decade now. Especially when you take an example of the pandemic that we all have been battling with. Many companies, many startups have been shut down. Many top-notch companies are fighting. The reason being they are not able to decide on what strategy should they continue with, what product should they continue with, and what can they afford to shut down. It's very important to understand whatever you choose, what's the expansion plan? 6 months to 2 years to 5 years from now. That is what you talk about in the portfolio management outcome. Third, you talk about is SaaS-based models. Assessing pros and cons, considering SaaS, premium, and captive-based business models is the key here. This is my personal favorite. Not every one of us right now would be from accounts, from a commerce background. But what you cannot choose to tell a management or an investor if you want to become an entrepreneur tomorrow is you don't understand numbers. The reason being, at a senior position, you cannot afford to have an excuse that you cannot analyze a balance sheet, a product balance sheet, which is your own product apparently. You cannot tell the management or the investor that you cannot envision the revenue 5 years down the road. You don't understand cash flow. How do you capitalize on resources? You cannot choose to opt out of it. So the first we talk about is how do you envision a product. Second is opportunity analysis. Third is portfolio management, what to keep and what to lose. Fourth is SaaS-based model. Fifth is P&L management. Sixth you talk about is straight up pricing. How do you price a product? I'll give you a small example here. Most of us would come in from from an IT software company. And Gaurav, please correct me if I'm wrong here. If you are selling a particular product to 300 customers, let's say to first 100 you sell it at a perpetual model. To the second set you sell it at a subscription model. To the third set you sell it at a pay as you go model. How do you analyze and understand what model to build from a business context, customer context, also from an innovation context? India, especially, is a very price sensitive market. This is my second field, business storytelling. First, we spoke about the first outcome is how do you envision a product. Second outcome is opportunity analysis. Third is portfolio management. Fourth is SaaS based model. Fifth is P&L management. Sixth is pricing. Seventh, business storytelling. There is a very important, I would say, maybe it's my opinion here, but this is one of the most crucial skill that you need at a senior most position. One of the most crucial skills. But there has not been one book that can make you a storyteller. You can read a couple of them, but will it give you the skills where people will want to listen to you? Not sure. At the same time, you cannot just be a storyteller without making sense. So that's time you add data to it. Data driven storytelling. How do you apply data science to your decision making context is what business storytelling is all about. Data science driven storytelling. Influence. The higher you go up the ladder, the less people report to you. Because at that level, you are not there for people management. You are not there to manage 200 employees or 50 employees. No. You own $1 billion revenue. But at the same time, if you cannot influence your internal team, your stakeholders, your customers, you will never be able to hit that target what you have set as a goal for a number that you want to achieve. So 7 we talk about is business storytelling and how do you lead decisions with influence. 8 is go to market. All of us here are mid-career professionals. We all would have either experienced or led launches across the globe. What's common in every product launch across vertical, across domain is first is a product messaging, second is a product communication. Both goes hand in hand. And that is where you hit the nail on new customer acquisition as well as expansion of new emerging trends from a customer level. So first we spoke about how do you envision a product. Second is opportunity analysis, what to do, what not to do, what is right, what is wrong. Portfolio management, what to keep, what to shut down. Fourth is SaaS-based modeling. Fifth is all about numbers. Sixth is about pricing. Fifth, how to be a storyteller. Because if you are not a storyteller, you can survive as a manager, you can never thrive as a leader. 8 is go to market. 6th is negotiation. Every one of us has been negotiating our whole life. Every year we are at the reporting manager's desk or at the management saying, why should I be paid X and why not Y? When you talk about negotiation, why should your idea be chosen? Why are you right and the other one is wrong? Why are you saying makes more sense and not something other? So how to be a better negotiator? Negotiation and influencing goes hand in hand. If you cannot influence, you can never negotiate. And the last is team building. This is the whole outcome of the program in the 5 months. The whole program of international certification in strategy and leadership talks about these 10 core outcomes, from envisioning a product to opportunity analysis, portfolio management, SaaS-based models, P&L management, pricing, business storytelling and leading with influence, go to market, how to be a better negotiator, and team building. It's 5 months, 5 key skills that you build: leading with influence, communicating with impact, financial acumen, data informed decision making. How do you use the power of data science? Exactly what Gaurav referred about NPS. How and what part is very important? Why do you want to do it? Where do you see the product 5 years from now? Why are you right? Why is the other person not making sense? Data driven storytelling, data informed decision making is one of the crucial skills you need if you want to grow up the ladder faster. And fifth is product and digital strategy. Now, everything we spoke about that could be from a skill set perspective, that could be, I think Vipul has raised a hand. Vipul will take all the questions right after the presentation. Hold your horses. Now, whenever we talk about, when we talk about the whole program here, Again, repeating, it is not a faculty-driven program. Exactly what I was saying. It's not something that you can sit back at your couch with a blanket, popcorn in hand, relax and take the classes. It's not that. Every session is a mentor-led session. Practitioners who are decision makers in the country right now. In fact, you have a cohort. It's mentor-led, cohort-driven interactions, like-minded people coming together with 10, 15, 20 plus years of experience and working on multiple concept frameworks that are real-world problems. Building hands-on portfolio and then demonstrating it to an external jury. Other than the mentors and the coaches in the program, every skill is demonstrated at a jury level. People from the industry come down to evaluate you. Having said that, these are also the people who are actively hiring. A VP, a director, a country head comes down to evaluate your skills. And you make a presentation to a problem to the jury member who is actively hiring. So when you talk about the whole pedagogy, starting from a very curated learning path, those are already available session that you need to go through for understanding at a concept level to a live mentor session, live projects, live presentation, skill hackathons where you demonstrate your skill at a certain problem to the external jury member. Having said that, the 5 core components that we spoke about, the 5 months, 5 skill set, that's not the only one. After 5 months, you can choose to add on monthly electives in your certification. And the model is exactly the same, mentor-led, coaching-driven, cohort-driven. From lean entrepreneurship to design thinking, customer insighting, digital product management, and product marketing. This is a burning question that all of us has all the time. How do you place people? How will I get hired? Now, answering the burning question at the last, when you talk about Career Club, IPL has been running executive programs past a decade now. There are 2,000 plus alumni spread across the country, even beyond the borders of the country, at multiple positions, senior most decision makers who are actively hiring. You get connected with that community. When you talk about the second point, how you demonstrating your skills, going back to the pedagogy, this is exactly what you talk about, demonstrating your skill to an external jury and the world. That is your exam, apparently. And every support you need from a resource standpoint for mock interviews, for coaching, mentorship, everyone is available. Now, I'm again repeating myself. It's not a program that is led by a teacher or a faculty. Each and every one right now is not just actively hiring, but is a coach from, in fact, Gaurav, who comes from Intuit with over 2 decades of experience as a product leader, is a coach at IPL, especially for this program. So the whole pedagogy is led by industry practitioners and not by faculties. Now, this is very interesting. Now, the program is offered in affiliation with the University of Houston from the Ball College of Business in the US. For the upcoming batch that is starting next month, there is a Marshall Scholarship that are allotted to selective participants for $350, which is about 25,000 in INR. But it's a select scholarship for which you need to first take an assessment. The QR is on your screen. We'll take 10 seconds. You can scan the QR, you can have the paper submitted, and then the team can reach out to you with the respective assessments you need to take. We'll take 10 seconds here. You guys can scan your QR. If you have any further questions on the program, this is a QR code. You can block your time. Me or someone from the academics team can come on board and we can help with any further questions you have. Now, further ado, I would like to invite Sandip Anand, who is an esteemed alumni of IPL. As we speak, Sandeep is graduating the senior AVP of Tech Mahindra. Sharana?
I will welcome Sandeep. Thank you for joining us today. Sandeep, a quick a brief on Sandeep. Sandeep has served in various capacities and roles in telecom and IT organizations in India and abroad. He has led large teams in total outsourcing and transformation projects. He has thereby solving a number of tactical and strategic problems for his customers. Being in senior management, he gets a close view of the critical success factors in his customers and his own organization. He's presently working to increase his organization's market share in a large US fintech company. Sandeep joined us this year in the ICSL program during the pandemic to refresh and reboot his outlook of work in a post-pandemic world. Welcome, Sandeep. Thank you for being with us today. Over
Thank
to
you very
you,
much,
sir.
Yes,
Sharana.
Sandeep.
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to share. Yeah. Hi, Saurav.
It's our pleasure.
Hey everyone, so Sandeep is an esteemed alumni who can give you some good, some bad about the program. So feel free, any questions you have, please shoot it at the chat box and then we can have them answered.
So do I go to the chat box to quickly check the questions which are there?
We will have the questions rolled out to you. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, great. So guys, a very warm welcome this evening, and very nice to see a lot of people who are interested in the program. I also got interested by looking at the various modules and the time limit and the learning methods. I quite liked the learning methods and it suited me as a person because I had to balance between work and studies. So the way the course was structured in terms of the way the modules were given. So there is a learning management system, then there's some curated learning. There is a pre-read before each session. If you do all of that, then the second level of learning happens during the 2-hour or 3-hour session that you have in the as a class. Your all colleagues and your professor will take you through the very concepts that you've pre-read. And then post that, there would be an assignment as well, which you have to submit. So at least you go through the key concepts thrice. One is a pre-read through curated learning, second during the class, and third during the assignment. I think it sits in, and that's what I liked about this particular learning methodology. For me, it worked. I am more a very practical person in terms of, yeah.
I'm sorry, on that note, we have a question in the chat window. I'm saying we have a question at the chat window. I'll read it out. And it's from Mr. Ravi, if I'm not mistaken. So he says, I'm a technical manager with 15 years of experience. How will this program help me step up in the career when I am not an MBA holder?
So let me answer this question that I don't think so that in this post-pandemic world, MBAs are a kind of an absolute necessity. I think as you would have seen that there is a lot of innovation happening at the grassroots level, and there will be continuously a lot of startups and innovative ways of solving problems, which is going to be the rule of the game going forward, or the way that the world will move going forward. What this course has actually helped me is that while working, we are used to customer problems, and what we have been able to now see in this course is that those basic concepts get reinforced. So let's look at it very objectively. And of course, sort of took you through the 10 objectives, the outcomes that you're looking at. Let's look at the 5 courses that we're talking about. To solve any problem or to what would you require? You would have a team for which you would have to lead. So there is a course on leadership which takes care of that. Then there is a course on communication, which is exactly what you will have to do for your teams as well as your end customers. Not only that, I think the key takeaway that I take away this time is storytelling. I think that's the most interesting way of being able to talk to your clients, talk to your team. That's something which I take away. And in fact, that's a very important way of communicating going forward. I learned that here, and I do take that back to work every day. The other thing, of course, is that the product and digital leadership learning that you have in terms of strategy, they teach you both the old school concepts as well as the new. So you are able to mix and match both and create and think what your requirements are or your clients' requirements are going forward. So yes, that's something that you learn as well. And that is supported by two particular pillars, I should call it. One is the financial acumen. Being technical guys, we may not be very comfortable reading the balance sheet numbers. You have a wonderful prof who takes care of that. And at the end of the day, today we are actually looking forward to the next quarterly reports and actually and interpreting our own organizations as well as the competitors' balance sheets and quarterly reports very efficiently. And of course, there is this most important, and people have already talked about it, some questions around the data analytics. No doubt that is going to become a very normal basic skill that one would require, just like Excel going forward in work life. So yes, these are the crux of things that you require to solve the problems in the future. And all that in bite-sized learning in 5 months, you are introduced to it. You can continue to build upon it and continue to expand your knowledge and solve problems. I hope I've answered your question. It's very lengthy, but it was very close to heart.
Thank you so much,
I
Sandeep.
will I like to just add on to what Sandeep said.
Sure, Gaurav, please.
And Saurabh, I think it's just what you and Sandeep already emphasized. See, when I look in the industry and in my team, both the strategic perspective, thought process, and demonstrating that is also important, right? And that is why this course has been structured, with both the behavioral skills as well as the functional skills. So while the data analytics, and the financial acumen and the product strategy sessions will help you in terms of how to develop strategic thinking, the soft, behavior like influencing skills and the I think the leadership skills, basically will be also be covered as a part of this, which will really help you to demonstrate, that you really can think, from a strategic perspective right now. And the course is also about self discovery, right? So you may as an individual may find out that, okay, these were one or two or few gaps which was stopping me to be in the from propel from current senior management to the top management, right? There must be something, right, which is stopping you from that. And that is like, just like from a business perspective, we you discover the customer problems. Same way, when you will go through this course, you will also figure it out. Hey, what are the problems? What are the vulnerabilities you have, which basically often stop you, to kind of either think from that perspective or demonstrate from that perspective. So because at the end of the day, you also need to grow from in your career. This is will be my 2 cents. What this course will help you to unfold, where exactly the problems are or the vulnerabilities are, and kind of bridge them so that you are ready for the top position in your organization.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. We'll take 2 or 3 more questions. It's on the chat window. So the very first question is the most interesting one, and I think all the female audience can easily correlate with it. So it's asked by Miss Seema. So she says that she's working as a premium support leader. I feel I didn't get good opportunities to leverage my full potential given the male dominant society. Does this course help me in achieving two leadership positions? The follow-up question on the same is asked by Sandeep. What is the level of time commitment you need for ICSL for 5 months? And do you see any difference in your decision making and problem solving skills before and after? We'll first move to Seema, then we'll go to Sandeep. Gaurav, Sandeep, over to you.
Yeah, Gaurav, let me go to the second part because it's about the learning experience, and maybe you can touch upon Seema's question, though I think it's irrelevant. But however, the second part in terms of the learning, yes, it requires effort, and if you're able to keep up to the learning, trust me that you will do extremely well. I personally found it very, very involving. The way the content is delivered is typically good for us in the IT industry. If you go through the curated content, each of these sessions or each of these topics that they talk about is roughly about anything between 3 minutes to about 10 minutes for each concept. And there's a series of such videos which you can go through or read through this content, which will help you gather that particular knowledge. So it's in bite size. It's not that you have to read an entire chapter and with and then try and figure out what has happened. So these are bite sized and given to you in a very crisp form. Yes, there is a sizable amount of going through these videos which is there, but it'll help you in getting those concepts clarified. As I mentioned, not only if the first is doing the pre-read, second is during the classes, third is during the assignment. And mind you, some of the assignments are actually presentations, which gives you the opportunity of standing and presenting in front of your own friends and colleagues or your cohort, so fearlessly. And eventually, of course, as a few of them really get to stand in front of the industry and present your ideas, which is absolutely phenomenal because you have nothing to lose in that presentation and you have everything to gain and every feedback to get. Yes, as far as the learning is concerned, I find it very good. You need to be able to spend at least 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours in a week. In some sessions, it's slightly more, but yes, at least you need to be able to put in this 5 hours a week to be able to at least gather the basics and then move forward. That's my first part. And before I give it to Gaurav to answer the lady's question, I don't, at least in products, I think it's not, or any managers are not male dominated. I don't think the world has moved away from that particular view is what my feeling is. And in fact, in our class as well, we have a lady also present, but I don't think that's, in fact, at my workplace, I don't find that that's a hindrance, but I leave it to Gaurav to answer that question.
Sure, thanks, Sandeep. I think I would just answer this in a holistic manner, and in the previous one I mentioned that the course will prepare both to develop the skills and demonstrate the skills. Right? If Seema, you particularly believe that during your experience it has happened with you that because of the male dominance or whatever it has happened, definitely I think this course will equip you with the right skills, both from a functional and from a communication and soft behavioral skills point of view. So obviously this will definitely help you to excel in your career, and kind of figure out where the vulnerabilities are and overcome them. That's all I had.
Thank you so much,
Well
Gaurav.
said, Gaurav. I think any skill is what is required to overcome any competition. I think having the skills is what really, it's like survival of the fittest, and the better skill you are, the more successful you are at work. And like even Sandip was saying, I don't think there's any gender bias anymore at work. Probably there, I think it's still going to take a long time for that to go away completely. I think skill building is what really is empowers you at the workplace. So thank you there again.
Sharana, I think we are ahead of time. If we
Yes.
don't have any more questions.
Yes, I don't think we should be eating into people's dinner time. So thank you very much, Sandeep and Gaurav, for being with us today. Audience, due to the time constraint, we shall have to end the Q&A here. Thank you for the participation. I think those were some brilliant questions, and hopefully they were all answered. And thank you very much once again. And Saurav, thank you. Appreciate you all
Thank you so
taking
much, everyone. Shana, just a second here. The QR code is there on your screen. You can scan this and maybe talk to a coach or a mentor if you want some candid career advice on what to do next. So we'll just hold for 10 seconds. We'll let the people scan it and then maybe we will break for the day.
So thank you, Saurabh, Suraj, and Shairana from my side. It was a lovely session, and kind of, brilliantly hosted. So thank you for the opportunity and, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much
Thank you
for
very much,
giving your time,
everybody.
Gaurav. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
for
Thank you
joining
very
us.
Thanks
much.
a lot.
Thank you.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe, stay skilled, and a very good night.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much.
everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.